Last year for Christmas, my partner gave me a national parks pass, which got us free entry to as many U.S. national parks as we wanted for all of 2022. The pass costs $80, and most national parks charge about $30 per car. So because I'm a thrifty person, I committed to visiting at least 3 national parks in 2022. Luckily, I live in the Bay Area, and California is home to, I believe, more national parks than any other state. So I knew that I could do this pretty much on the cheap, driving to all of my nearest parks and camping there with my partner and, of course, my dog, Indy. All told, it was pretty cheap. Especially, considering that we did end up hitting 4 national parks and 1 national monument, and also as a bonus, a trip to Mammoth Lakes, even though, gas prices were through the roof, still pretty cheap. But there was one expense that I found very frustrating, despite the fact that overall it was pretty minor. That would be some of the money I spent reserving our stays via recreation.gov. Okay. First of all, let me be really clear. Hotels, Airbnbs, Verbos, they're all expensive. And campsites in our national parks, comparatively speaking, are super cheap. This campsite, for instance, located on the banks of the Merced River in Yosemite National Park, cost me in total $46. Is that worth it? Absolutely. It is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And, those views, that solitude, that cool, calm water, it was worth 5 times that. But only $36 of that cost was for the actual campsite. $10 was what I spent on a lottery ticket. That's right. Lotteries aren't just for people looking to become overnight billionaires. They're also now for people who want to experience the majesty of nature found in U.S. taxpayer-funded national parks. At first, this made sense to me. Lots of people want to check out Yosemite, especially since COVID reminded people that there's more to life than sitting at a computer typing or in front of a camera speaking. And if we just let everyone into Yosemite, they might overwhelm the park. They might scare all of the cute little bears, leave trash everywhere, and stress out the 19th century infrastructure. Plus, who goes into the wilderness just to see other people, right? Gross. I hate them. Ugly bags of mostly water. So we need to find ways to limit the number of people. And that means that it's very difficult to get reservations to camp in Yosemite, especially during the busy late spring, summer, early fall seasons. I actually was able to snag a campsite in 2021 by waking up at 7 a.m. on the day that the campsites were made available. And I grabbed a single campsite on a random Tuesday anywhere I could. But then I ended up having to cancel it because I had to get married that day. Priorities. But for this year, I was informed that I could pay $10 to enter a lottery, which, if I won, would allow me to choose my campsite at my leisure and maybe even get, 2 nights in a row. So I forked over the $10. I lost. I did not get my $10 back because such is the nature of a lottery. Then I, logged on at 7 a.m., 6 months before I wanted to visit the park, and all of the campsites were reserved within seconds. I wasn't able to get one. But wait, you know how this story ends because I already showed you the campsite I stayed at. So how did I get it? Well, it turns out there are a lot of private services that use bots to continually search for campsites that other people cancel, and then they send you an alert so that you can rush to your computer and grab that campsite before anybody else. Most of those services charge for this. You pay for how often they check the site. Do they check it every day, every hour, every 5 minutes? And then you buy, how many times they will check for you. But again, I am very thrifty. And after a lot of research, I found a tool that some other lovely lovers of the outdoors coded and released for free. It's called Camp Flare. I entered the dates I wanted, and when a site eventually became available, I booked it. It just so happens that I got one of the most beautiful campsites I've ever seen, so lucky me. It was a very annoying process, but it was worth it, right? Like, sure, I lost $10 on a losing lottery ticket, but at least that money went to the Park Service. Well, no, it didn't. And I wish I could say that I didn't know this at the time that I paid for the ticket, but I did know, and I did it anyway because I really wanted that campsite. That $10 went into the pocket of Booz Allen, a multi-billion-dollar corporation that Bloomberg once called the world's most profitable spy organization. Yes, the $10 I paid to recreation.gov for a chance to pay for a campsite at Yosemite National Park helped fund the world's most profitable spy organization. Fun. Also, by the way, Booz Allen is the company that fired Edward Snowden after he leaked documents revealing widespread mass surveillance by the NSA. So, yeah. Back in 2017, the U.S. government was looking for the best way to upgrade their ancient reservation system. And because we have systematically defunded services like this and neoliberals have brainworms, they agreed to let Booz Allen code the site at apparently no cost upfront to the U.S. taxpayers. But they allowed the corporation to set up extra fees that they could determine more or less arbitrarily. That includes these lotteries, which aren't just for things like Yosemite campsites. As Cory Doctorow points out, recreation.gov offers lotteries for all kinds of things, like hiking permits that pull in hundreds of thousands of dollars per site per year for Booz Allen. Cory's thread was why I finally decided to make this video, considering that I saw his thread the very same week that I got an email encouraging me to try once again for the Yosemite campsite lottery for 2023, which I entered because I have a different kind of brainworms. Cory rightfully compares Booz Allen's fee scheme to Ticketmaster, which has grown into such an obvious example of a capitalist dystopian nightmare that Taylor Swift fans are now poised to take it down because it wouldn't even let them pay hundreds of dollars to see Taylor Swift. You might criticize me for complaining about wasting several hours of time and a lousy $10 to have the privilege of experiencing nature in all of its glory. And you'd be right. You know, I was able to finally have the joy of swimming in the Merced River as the sun sets over Yosemite Valley. But that's just it. National parks shouldn't be protected just for people like me, who can take off time in the middle of the week whenever I want, who can afford to throw away $10 on a whim, and who has the knowledge to navigate this complicated system, and who has the laptop and the phone and the watch that will ping me when I can rush in to book a campsite. In fact, researchers at University of Montana found in a study published last spring that campgrounds that use recreation.gov are more likely to have white, high-income visitors than those that accept walk-ins only. Ironically, the team suggested in their study that maybe a lottery system would solve the problem. Sure, but do we have to give the lottery proceeds to Booz Allen? National parks are frequently called America's Best Idea, a program that protects our wild places while at the same time supposedly making them available to everyone. But what's happened is that these lands have become like a vacation resort for the 10%, while enriching billion-dollar private corporations and shutting out the people who would probably benefit the most from witnessing the incredibly beautiful, inspiring, and educational vistas within the borders of these national parks. And it's not exactly shocking considering the dodgy start national parks had. Indigenous historians point out that they were created by murdering and driving out native tribes. I might never have been able to enjoy the beauty of Yosemite National Park were it not for a California militia that went there specifically to kill the Miwok people to prevent them from getting in the way of gold prospectors. They were starved, shot, and driven out of Yosemite and into reservations. So now I can pay $35 to camp there. Our national park system will always have that bloody history, but it doesn't mean that we can't make things better for the future. I think it is an important, even necessary thing to have these protected lands that are there for the public good, but we can definitely make it better. I'm not sure if we're anywhere close to, say, giving these lands back to the indigenous tribes that tended to them for millennia, but we can at least start improving the way that we make these spaces available to everyone. As Matt Stoller points out in his newsletter, in October of 2023, Congress will need to renew Booz Allen's authorization to charge these fees, and they could absolutely rein the corporation in. Or the Biden administration can just crack down and eliminate the fees. That would be a good start. But I think what we're seeing is that the entire system needs an overhaul. There are ways to ensure equity in who gets to see the parks, but we won't stumble into those when we put multi-billion-dollar military contractors in charge, whose goal is never going to be equity or conservation, but just making more money today than they made yesterday.